What's going on, everyone? My name is Trevor Fernandez-Lenkevich, the writer and creator of Area 51, the Helix Project, and your host for this evening. I just want to let you know that the third issue to my comic is on Kickstarter right now, with the first two being available. It's a 6-part comic book series that dives into the UFO hysteric 1970s America, challenging conceptions of society, mental health, identity, and memory. Under the shadow of the Cold War, the United States government greenlights the covert Helix Project through the guise of national defense. The disconnected Colonel Winters hosts a series of experiments that graft extraterrestrial DNA into the United States soldiers, and that DNA comes from the specimen that landed in Roswell in the 50s. The success of the Helix Project would afford the United States the opportunity to wipe the Soviet Union from the world stage, granting them the unique ability to shapeshift. Imagine the possibilities. But the big question is, at what cost did this power come and to who? That said, let's roll the trailer. Alright, so let's get into today's topic at hand for Chronicles of a Comic Book Creator, and that is finding your creative collaborator. There are a couple of big questions you have to ask yourself getting into this step of the process, and those are, in my opinion, what areas of the creative process will you be fulfilling, and what type of book are you looking to create? Now, whether it's genre or a sense of the atmosphere that you're going for, or a sort of lens of the storytelling, make sure you're finding an artistic collaborator that's going to be able to well render what you are looking for in your head. Now, whether you're looking for a sci-fi artist that can provide a next level sense of texture for gross skins for aliens, or crazy cool metallic chromy textures for lighting and metal, or maybe you're making a slice of life book that you want sort of exaggerated gestures and facial expressions through bolder line art, you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. But make sure you're looking for an artist that's going to best fit your book. Don't be one of those people, and this is just my opinion, that look for the generic superhero artist to do everything and anything. Sure, will you get an okay looking book? Maybe. Will it do everything that you want it to do as a storyteller? Will it accomplish the best sense of visual world building and storytelling that your story needs? Maybe not. So take your time. Look for an artist whose style and whose storytelling effectiveness really caters to the type of story that you want to tell. And when it comes to looking for artists, make sure you stick around to the end of the video, where I will give you exact resources on some of the places online that I like to use to look for my creative collaborators. Now, when it comes to putting a post out there looking for a collaborator, be very clear on what you want, because there's a lot of guys out there who will express fake sentiments that have no idea what they're doing, and it's cool, I understand, you don't really know what you're doing. Maybe before you post, you might want to do a little bit of reading to have an idea of what you're doing. But hey, that's just me. Give a distinct idea of what you're looking for, what type of book you're trying to create. maybe the page rate you're willing to pay, so on and so forth. This can also be used as a very clear indicator of whether or not applicants are ready or right for the project that you're trying to tell. I remember countless times putting out posts looking for artists where they wouldn't even listen to the basic directions that I had set up and weren't really giving me what I was asking for in the post. Therefore, that was an immediate indicator that I don't want to work with them if they can't adhere to a basic prompt. How are they going to adhere to the script or be a crucial part of the collaborative process? Now, let's look at a couple of examples of asshats that have no idea what they're doing. As a wannabe writer who wants to hook me up with their artists, ? I don't even think that's a grammatically correct sentence. Nothing mega fancy, but still looks good for a modest price. 50 pages, doesn't need color. Do we have any idea what type of product he's looking to make? What his budget is? No? Good, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Next example. Who wants to collaborate on a comic? That's useful. Now I know that everybody's going to be at different levels, but at least try not to put yourself in a position where everybody who comments on the post is going to ask you what you're looking for. You should have already given them an idea, and there are always going to be questions, but set yourself up so that you can have a meaningful dialogue about the project outside of the public forum, right? My advice for a writer looking for an artist might even be to express what your budget is, but also to express a little bit more than what you're willing to pay, because once you open a meaningful conversation with somebody who's interested in working, at that point maybe you can have the conversation about maybe trading a little bit off their page rate in order to guarantee them X amount of pages for work. A lot of artists are very okay with that type of negotiation because they're getting more reliable work despite getting paid a little bit less. So I think that's a really great bargaining tactic, and while you're doing it, be respectful. Don't tell them that their shit isn't worth as much as what they're charging. Make sure you're always approaching them with respect, and just be honest. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it, and do so without laying on a pity party. Just say, listen, I can negotiate. This is what I'm willing to do. Are you able to do it? End a conversation. Also, don't be that guy that posts in Facebook groups about wanting to start some crazy extended universe when you have never actually written a comic and don't know how to write a story. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but referring back to the first episode of the Chronicles of a Comic Book Creator, figure out whether your idea is unique and yours. There have been a million bazillion superhero stories in comic books, and a lot of them have likely been done better than your generic idea. If you're gonna do the superhero thing, this is just my philosophy, make sure that it has a really fresh approach. There's a good reason why I, for example, have no plans at any time in the near future to write a superhero comic that isn't an already existing IP. You know why? Because I don't have a unique idea for it. I don't have something that sets it out away from tradition. Why would somebody want to buy my superhero comic that's just a derivative version of something that already exists with characters that they already love? It doesn't make sense. And I'll have to throw out the disclaimer, these are just my opinions. If you don't like them, don't watch the video, okay? I'm not the overly optimistic type. You might even be able to say that I dwell a little bit more on the pessimistic side, but I'm just trying to be reasonable and realistic here. Once you've opened a dialogue with an artist or you're looking for the artist, figure out whether or not your writing style meshes with your intended collaborators. Are they comfortable directing scenes? What is their preference? How specific is your vision, right? You want to look into not only their aesthetic ability as an artist to design, but their ability to tell stories. That's more important. I would any day pick up an artist who is fluent in being able to tell a story through the sequential narrative than somebody with a super polished design, because ultimately this is a storytelling medium. If you wanted to look at singular images as they are, then go buy a bunch of comic book covers, go look at paintings in a museum. This is not that. It's a narrative art form. I think it's also really important to figure out how the collaborator likes to work. Does this artist prefer being dictated to in high detail? Are you the writer that can deliver that for them, right? That's something worth noting. They might be a really stunning artists, but they need a very specific level of dictation. Are you the writer that can describe the world, the moment, the scene, what have you, in the way that this artist needs in order to make said beautiful rendering? I think it's something that a lot of people don't really think about. Are they the type of artist that's really hands-on in the storytelling, right? Do they have a really natively intense instinct for telling the story? Do you have the descriptive language in your arsenal right now and the awareness of the format to give them a bunch of direction? Because if you aren't able to dictate what you're looking for in high detail, you might want to look for an artist who is more prepared to be more hands-on in the visual storytelling. So are you coming to this video knowing the comic book script writing format? Or maybe not. If you haven't, go check out our last video, Chronicles of a Comic Book Creator episode 2, where we go over the form and function of comic book scripting. You can probably click something right up there or in the description below in order to do that. But it is worth thinking about what type of writer you are when you're looking for an artistic collaborator. When you're looking for an artist, whether that is the line artist, the inker, the colorist, what have you, you always sort of want to get a sense of before and after. With the artist, you want to see how they're translating script to the visual page. How do you do that? Ask for pages of script that go along with the work so you can see, one, are they the type that is really innately able to follow directions, or do they even take the script to the next level? When you're looking for an inker or a colorist, you always want to ask for the page before they do their inks and or colors and after, because that will help you determine whether their embellishments are actually embellishments or if they're taking a step back and ruining part of the art. This is one of the biggest asks that I have made throughout the course of finding collaborators, and oftentimes applicants of sorts don't even give me what I'm asking for. Again, that's how you know to give them the cut. And there have been times where I've found inkers, colorists, so on and so forth, that actually do the art a disservice, and that's a great indicator that they're not what I'm looking for. If an artist in particular, the line artist, is comfortable, sometimes it might be worth asking if they'll do a sample page, a single page of your script, and you can judge whether or not you mesh well together by that. And it's a relatively small sample size, but you can't expect them to do a bunch of free pages. And if they're not willing to do a finished detailed page, ask to see if they'll do a layout of the page, to see if your textual information is being well converted to visual information via their art. And again, they could take it to another level. They could be providing much more intense, much more evocative camera angles or layouts than what you have put on the page, and that's a good indicator, perhaps, that that's a collaborator you might want to work with. Now, in terms of where you can find collaborators, I'll give you a couple spots where I've found a decent amount of solid applicants, and don't get me wrong, you're always going to get the asshats, but I think it's worth checking these places out. So if you're on Reddit, check out r/comicbookart, r/comicbooks, r/hungryartists, and r/comicbookcollabs. You'll see posts of artists looking for writers. You can also make posts looking for artists, and again, be very descriptive in what you're looking for. There are also Facebook groups that I found some success in looking for people, and that's Indie Comic Artists and Writers, I Create Comic Books, and How to Draw Comics. And if you're able to, make business cards and go to comic book conventions. Look for folks in Artist Alley whose art impresses you, and open up a conversation with them then and there. Nobody's hiding behind a computer screen, so it's going to be a lot more vulnerable and honest, I think, of an interaction, if you ask me. To be honest, at the end of this video, I feel like there's something I'm missing, but I can't quite figure it out. So if you have any questions about finding an artistic collaborator that I didn't cover in this video, please ask down in the comments below. I'm kind of in a rush to get to work, so I apologize if this isn't everything I wanted it to be. So make sure to ask your questions if there's something I didn't quite cover, if there's something you need clarified down below. If you enjoyed this video or content like this, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and check out our other 2 episodes of the Chronicles of a Comic Book Creator. And if you will, please consider checking out my comic book, Area 51, the Helix Project. There'll be a link in the description below. And if you find yourself enjoying the way that I'm approaching the comic book making process, I think you'll very much enjoy my comic. So check it out. back it today on Kickstarter. I'd be super appreciative. And I look forward to chatting with you guys next week on another episode of Chronicles of a Comic Book Creator. Thanks for watching.